The halls of Brookfield University echoed late at night with the soft squeak of a mop. Few people noticed him, but everyone knew him as Mr. Hayes, the quiet janitor with tired eyes and calloused hands. To most, he was just another custodian, blending into the background, sweeping floors and emptying trash bins. But what nobody saw was the man behind the mop. James Hayes was a single dad, a decorated veteran who had given up his dreams to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, after his wife's passing. Every night, after finishing his shift, he would sit with Lily, helping her with homework and telling her stories about courage, hope, and never giving up, even when the world seemed stacked against you. What no one knew Broken Bar was that James Hayes had a mind unlike any other. His IQ tested off the charts 900, they said, though the number barely captured the scope of it. He had once been a child prodigy, a thinker who saw patterns where others saw chaos, who could solve equations faster than computers. But life had pushed him down a different path of war, loss, fatherhood, and sacrifice. One evening, as he scrubbed the chalkboard in an empty lecture hall, his eyes caught fragments of an equation left behind by a professor. Complex symbols sprawled across the board, unfinished, abandoned. He froze. His heart pounded. It was the problem. For decades, scientists had been stuck battling with a mathematical model to stabilize renewable fusion energy. Billions had been poured into research. Countless conferences, debates, and experiments had all led to frustration. And there it was, half scribbled in chalk, waiting. James set the mop aside, picked up a piece of chalk, and began to write. Hours slipped by like minutes. His hands moved as if guided by something beyond him. Lines of numbers became shapes, then patterns, then answers. He wasn't just solving equations, he was seeing the heartbeat of the universe, unraveling the puzzle that had stumped the brightest minds on Earth. When the morning sun streamed through the window, the board was filled, and in the center, circled twice, was the solution. The next day, a young graduate student walked into the hall and froze. "Oh my God, a broken bar," he whispered, running to fetch the department head. Within hours, the room was swarming with professors and scientists, jaws dropping, eyes wide. "Who did this?" they demanded. The custodian's cart sat quietly in the corner. When James finally admitted the truth, they didn't believe him at first. A janitor, a veteran single dad, the man who scrubbed their floors. But as he explained his work with calm precision, their skepticism crumbled into awe. He hadn't just solved the equation, he had unlocked a way to generate clean, limitless energy, a discovery that could end climate change, power cities, and bring hope to billions. Yet when the cameras came, when the headlines spread, "A janitor solves energy crisis," James refused the spotlight. Reporters begged for interviews. Governments offered him wealth beyond imagination. But he shook his head and said only one thing: "I just wanted a better world for my daughter." And then, something unexpected happened. Instead of claiming the glory, James donated the patent to humanity itself. No corporations, no governments owning it. It belonged to everyone. The scientists, stunned, asked him why. He smiled, his eyes tired but kind. "Because my little girl shouldn't have to pay for clean air or light in her room, and neither should anyone else's child." That night, James went home to Lily, who was coloring by the kitchen table. She looked up at him with her bright smile. "Daddy, why are people calling you a hero on the news?" He knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because sometimes, being smart doesn't mean keeping the answers for yourself. It means sharing fame, a broken bar, so the world is a little brighter for you." And for the first time in decades, James Hayes allowed himself to breathe, not as a janitor, not as a forgotten genius, not as a veteran scarred by war, but as a father who had given his daughter. The weeks that followed were a blur. James, the quiet janitor, suddenly found his name whispered in the same sentences as Einstein, Hawking, and Tesla. Yet, every time he walked through the university halls, he still carried his mop bucket, still swept the floors as if nothing had changed. Some students began leaving little notes on the chalkboard for him: "Thank you, Mr. Hayes." Others left apples or coffee cups, as though honoring a professor. Professors themselves, some embarrassed that they had overlooked him for years, began inviting him to discussions and panels. But James always declined politely. He wasn't chasing recognition. His mission had never changed. Lily. One evening, while tucking her into bed, Lily asked, "Daddy, if you're so smart, why do you still clean floors?" James thought for a long moment before answering, "Because, sweetheart, sometimes the world only notices the big things, but the little things matter just as much. A clean floor, a kind word, a promise kept, that's what keeps the world going." Lily hugged him tightly. In her young heart, her father wasn't just the smartest man alive, he was the kindest. But not everyone was pleased. Soon, corporations and governments grew uneasy. Billions of dollars in fossil fuel profits were threatened. Some tried to buy him out, others pressured the university. And one night, two suited men showed up at his modest apartment with an offer that would have set his family up for 10 lifetimes. James listened quietly, then poured them both coffee. After a long pause, he said, "I fought in wars. I've seen men lose everything chasing money and power. What I want can't be bought." The men left, frustrated, but James felt only peace. He wasn't afraid. He had already lost too much in life to fear losing anything else. Then came the twist no one expected. A small African village, which had never known reliable electricity, was the first to benefit from his formula. A group of students from the university used his equations to build a simple, clean power source. One night, for the first time, children studied under electric lights instead of candles. Families cooked without smoke filling their lungs. The entire village cheered under a sky lit not just by stars, but by hope. When James saw the video clip of those children laughing, he cried for the first time in years. He showed Lily, who clapped her hands and said, "Daddy, you gave them light." And in that moment, he realized something deeper. His discovery wasn't just about science, it was about dignity, about every child, in every corner of the world, having the chance to dream without limits. The media tried again to paint him as a genius recluse, but those who truly knew him understood that he wasn't defined by numbers on a board or test scores on paper. He was defined by sacrifice, humility, and love. In the end, James Hayes remained what he always was, a single dad, a veteran, and a man who found greatness not in glory, but in giving. And as he walked the quiet halls of Brookfield University one night, mop in hand, he paused at the chalkboard again. He smiled, picked up a piece of chalk, and wrote one last message for the world to see, and the world, a future full of light.